I want to address today quite a large problem, Islamist separatism. In order to first address this issue, you have to separate between Islam as a faith community and Islamism, which is a religio-political ideology that seeks to transform, re-Islamicize the entire society through legislation or through parallel structures. And of course also the third category, which is the violent extremist dimension, the Salafi jihadism. So you have to first make that distinction. But Islamist separatism have come up on the radar screen, of course, because of President Macron, who said that the challenge to French society, which is also the same for the Nordic societies, is frero-salafism, the Islamist dimension. In the Islamism in the form of the Muslim Brotherhood, which has a moderate facade but a divisive agenda, but also the Salafi dimension, which is contrary to democratic rights and freedoms in most European countries. And this Islamist separatism, if you're going to unpack it, has expressed itself through two different ways. Firstly, certain Islamist preachers have focused on limiting women's freedoms and rights. This means who to date, who to marry, how to dress and behave in public. But they also, some of them have invited preachers or have themselves expressed homophobic and strong anti-Semitic views. And some, of course, seek to limit the followers' active participation in society, even their democratic participation, and actively work to try to counter any contact with non-Muslims. The second form, Islamism, or Islamist separatism, is that Islamism can also be a form of identity politics. They are united in despising, hating the West, therefore also democracy. They despise West's moral decadence, and they hate LGBT rights, and they're also opposed to women's rights in different degrees. These forces have a very strong enemy picture. The Western life must be reduced, and they often paint themselves as victims and oppressed. They're very skilled at using Islamophobia and racism as tools to silence their opponents. It also contributes to driving a wedge between Muslims and non-Muslims, contributing to polarization and harming integration. So what do we do about this broad challenge? I want to propose three things we can do. The first issue is about understanding the nature of the problem. You have to separate out and understand the diversity of various currents within Islam, various schools and branches, etc. That is a primary prerequisite in order for one to be able to deal with Islamist separatism. It's also crucial to develop dialogue with diverse contacts with the minorities about also non-security issues, and to develop the confidence or talk to diverse minority communities to understand their needs, but as well as their agendas. That's the first point. The second point is that we, as a city, we have a tendency to have a confetti policy of providing financial contributions to civil society organizations. We have to ensure that we have the proper vetting procedures of civil society organizations and also to follow up the work done and also reviews about their effectiveness, to establish stringent democratic rights framework and to follow up concretely these projects to ensure that they do not go to undemocratic actors and that the projects do not do the opposite of what they intended to do, that they may cement segregation. Lastly, the third proposal is to work on primary prevention. It is very clear that the democracy-promoting agenda is absolutely vital to advance democratic values such as individual rights and freedoms, gender equality and tolerance. And more specifically, the work done in education and schools around addressing anti-Semitism, gender equality and conspiracy theories are critical to foster critical thinking skills, to tackle the foundations of conspiracy theories, and more broadly undermine the Islamist narrative. This requires a more in-depth understanding and integration of religious knowledge into the school's curriculum, more tools to navigate the divisive Israeli-Palestinian and Israeli-Arab conflict. But it also requires tools to undermine the anti-Semitic tropes that unite both Islamist extremism and far-right extremism.